All right, hello. Welcome to Calculus 1. So, since we are missing our entire first week of class due to snow and my travel schedule, what we're going to do is we're going to do the first day of class in 3 videos. So you have the entire first week off, so I suggest that during your class time, or whenever, you watch all 3 of these videos so that you can get caught up and learn what the syllabus is about and what this class is going to be about. And then next Tuesday, we can just start going and start learning some calculus. All right, so we're going to start off this first video talking about just the first kind of chunk of the syllabus. So I suggest you have your syllabus out so you can start making some notes on it and remember some of the important parts. All right, so first, the top up here is all the boring stuff, class time, classroom, except for this. This is very important. My office hours. Please make sure that you make note of when my office hours are. If these times do not work, you can always email me and try and make an appointment. If I am free, you're more than welcome to come on by. Okay? All right, so this will be really important when you get your first homework assignment. All right, so next, the textbook. Textbook's a little bit weird with this one, so I want to go over that in a little bit more detail. Your main textbook is going to be Active Calculus. This is by Matthew Bolkins. It's a really great textbook. It is free, and you can get it in 3 different ways. The first 2 are actually free. The last one requires a little bit of money. And all 3 of these ways can be found at this website right here. So the first way is you can just download a PDF of the book. Nice and simple. Keep it on your laptop, your iPad, whatever. Or you can go through this website and see the website that has everything from the book and some interactive apps, and it's really cool. So you can look at it all on the website as well. Finally, if you really want a hard copy of the book, then you can buy it from Amazon. And all 3 of those ways of getting the book can be found through this website, activecalculus.org. Now, this book is a little bit non-standard. We're going to see this as we go through it. It does not have as many examples. It's not similar to a lot of the math textbooks that you've seen thus far. However, it's a really great book for understanding the concepts of calculus. And it's one of those books that you can actually read each section from beginning to end. There's not that much there. And so I'm going to actually want you to read each section from beginning to end. However, if you want a little bit more traditional, if you want a few more examples, there is a supplementary text called Apex Calculus. And Apex Calculus, like I said, it's a more traditional book. It's got lots of examples, but unfortunately it's not done in the same order as our main textbook, Active Calculus. So you can get Apex from this website. It's free. You can download a PDF. But in order to translate section 1.1 to section 2.2 or whatever, there's going to be a page on Canvas which tells you which section in Active Calculus corresponds to which section in Apex Calculus. All right, so next let's move on to talking about what is in this course. So this course, Calculus, is really just another course, similar to algebra, geometry. It is not the be-all and end-all of mathematics. It's simply another tool. It's another area of mathematics that allows us to study mathematical objects, which allows us to study physical objects. In particular, calculus allows us to study functions. And functions, as we've seen multiple times in math, represent quantities. They allow us to kind of represent quantities in a nice, easily computable mathematical state. So in particular, calculus allows us to study 2 aspects of functions. The first talks about how a function or how a quantity changes. How fast does it change? Is it getting bigger? Is it getting smaller? What is happening to this function as the input changes? For example, we can use calculus to figure out, will a particular stock increase or decrease over a particular year, and how fast, or by how much? We could also have a function that represents the quantity, the position of a rocket. And so we can use calculus to talk about how that position changes with time, which is velocity. How fast is the rocket moving? Another example would be talking about the quantity which represents the temperature in the room. So what is the temperature over here at this corner of the room versus the temperature at that corner of the room versus the temperature in the middle of the room? And we can use calculus to describe, okay, as I walk across the room, how is the temperature changing? All right, so one of the big parts of calculus is just talking about how certain quantities change. Another part of calculus is how much of a quantity there is. So trying to measure over a particular time interval or over a particular amount of space, how much of a thing exists there. So for instance, if we know the velocity of a car, we know how fast a car is moving over a particular hour time period, then we can use calculus to calculate how far that car has traveled over that time period. If we have a function which describes the shape of a three-dimensional solid, let's say a top or a pyramid or something, we can use calculus to compute what the volume of that solid is or what the mass of that solid is. And so this is another aspect of calculus that helps us to study functions and study quantities of things. All right, so that's what calculus is. That's what we're going to be learning in this class. The next bit is how we're going to be learning it. We're going to be learning it through something called active learning. This is going to be a very different way of learning than you're used to. We're not going to be lecturing. I'm not going to be lecturing for the entire class time. You're not going to be sitting there and taking notes for the entire class time. You're going to be active. You're going to be doing things during this class for at least half of every single class. And the reason for that is because it's been shown, and you've learned this through everything that you've really learned that you care about. Learning how to play a sport, learning how to play an instrument, any hobby that you have. You learn by doing. You learn by actually acting and doing whatever it is you're trying to learn. And so I want you to do that in the class, where you can work with your classmates, you can work with me, and you can learn how to do calculus. And really what it means. So, how will the class actually work day to day? There's going to be different aspects. First, before class, you're going to work on something called a daily prep. And so we're going to talk more about this later, but this is going to prepare you for the class. So it's very, very important. And then for the first few minutes of class, we are going to talk about what you learned through that daily prep. We're going to talk about kind of what you learned before class, make sure everyone's on the same page. Then next, we're going to have some traditional lecture. I'm going to talk about some new material. I'll introduce new definitions. Maybe I'll do one example to try and get everyone familiar with the new material. But once we have seen the new material, once we have the terminology and the definitions down, everyone's going to get together in groups. And you are going to work on an activity, or maybe multiple activities. And so this is where you're going to be active. This is where you are going to try problems, do your own examples. This is where you're going to learn the material for yourself and really teach yourself, teach each other, ask me questions. This is really where you get to learn the material in your own way. Then, once we're done with the activity, we'll get together and discuss it. We'll talk about the answer. We're not just going to leave you to try and figure it out on your own. We will talk about the answer. We'll talk about how we got the answer and what we learned from the activity. And then we repeat. We've done that activity. We've learned that thing. I'll teach you something new. I'll give you a new definition. You'll work on some new activities. And we'll just continue that process over and over again. And so this is where the bookstore is very important, because you need to go to the bookstore and get the activity workbook. Each one of the activities we're going to do in class are in this activity workbook with some blank space for you to actually work on them. So make sure you go to the bookstore, get your activity workbook so that you can do the activities in class. All right, so the daily preps. We're going to talk more about these a little later on, but the daily preps are absolutely essential to how this class works. You must do some work outside of class in order to follow what's going on in class. when I discuss new material, when I offer up new definitions, I'm going to assume you've at least seen them before because you read the book, you watched some of the videos, you worked on some of the problems. These daily preps are not for you to teach yourself. I will be doing the teaching, but you need to have seen it before because then you're able to analyze what I'm teaching you and say, oh, that was the thing I don't understand. Let me ask a question about that. Or, oh, hey, now that I see it the second time, that answered one of the questions that I had the first time I saw it. All right, so it's incredibly important that you see this material before you come to class. All right, we will be working in groups. And so in order to facilitate that, there's going to be certain roles that different people in the groups are going to take on. These roles will change from day to day. The groups are going to change throughout the semester. All right, so no one's going to get too settled. So the 3 group roles that we're going to have are, first is a spokesperson. So the spokesperson is going to be the spokesperson for the group. They're going to be the one that reports the answers that the group came up with or the ideas that the group came up with when working on the activity. Spokesperson is not the only one that's allowed to talk. Certainly the other group members are allowed to contribute and say, oh yeah, well, we actually did this. Spokesperson is simply, it's the main person. It's the main speaker for the group. There will also be a writer. The writer is the one who records the answers for the group. Everyone will be working on the problems. Maybe you'll break up the problem into different pieces. Maybe everyone will work on the same piece so that you're all on the same track. But one person is going to be recording all of the answers. What this does is it keeps all the answers in one place, which is very nice. It also makes sure that everyone in the group is collaborating together, that everyone is working together and that everyone gets the answer, even if certain people are working faster than others. All right? And finally, we're going to have a facilitator. Facilitator is sort of the leader, but it's more the person that's just making sure that everyone is staying on track. Everyone's doing their job. Everyone is working on the problem. Also, this is the person who's going to make sure that progress is being made, and when progress stops being made, this is going to be the person that helps everyone get unstuck. Figures out ways to get unstuck, different questions you can ask, or says, okay, we are completely stuck, it's time to go ask the professor, or to turn and ask another group. But the facilitator is the person who really makes sure that we are continually making progress throughout the time period. All right, so finally, I think this is the important one. Why is this a good way to learn? Why doing these activities? Why is this better than just listening to a lecture and taking notes? Well, there's a bunch of different reasons. First is this allows you to practice the material during class. In a time period where you can ask your fellow students questions, where you can ask me, the professor, questions. And you're able to get those questions answered in real time so that when you go home and do your homework, you're much better prepared. You've gotten your questions answered already. You don't have to wait for the email to come back or wait until the next class period to ask those questions. But I think there are even better reasons for why we do these activities and why you really work on these problems in class. One is that it allows you to discover the material in this class, discover the new ideas of calculus for yourself versus just listening to me explain them to you. You remember things better and you understand things better when you are the one who discover them, when you are the one who figure them out. Also, it's just a ton of fun and excitement when you're the one who does the work and says, oh, that's why that works. That is why that particular equation is the way that it is. And so that really helps you understand things better. These types of questions, these activities are structured in such a way that it helps you understand why the formulas work the way that they work. Understanding the formula, memorizing the formula is really not that important. Computers can do calculus. No one's going to hire you because you're able to take a derivative. They will hire you because you know why you want to take a derivative. You know when to take a derivative. You know why it is important to use derivatives. And so understanding the why, understanding the concepts behind calculus is far more important than memorizing the formulas. And finally, it'll allow you to develop questions that you have, to work on the material and say, okay, this is what I don't understand. And you can ask other students, you can ask me, or you can go home and say, okay, we worked on this in class and this is what I did not understand. Let me do some more problems with this. Let me try and work on this, focus on this to try and understand it myself. All right, so this activity-based style of learning is really very important and a much better way of learning the material. You're going to come out of this class with a good understanding of what works, why it works, much more than just a list of formulas that you have memorized.